studies out there that are saying people were more connected broadly, but less connected individually now.
That did not have the support that maybe we had when we were growing up. I mean, you look at a lot of our students and they don't have those connections. They're a single parent. They're maybe, we're in a situation, they don't even have a spouse that's supporting them anymore, and so they really feel alone. So that's where they're connecting this way. I mean, I look at my students in my class, and in the 15 months that they're there, they develop such incredible friendships. It's their new family.
What has everybody's experience been with math so far?
Oh, yeah.
And so once they get through that discussion, then you're like, okay, let's talk about now, since people have different experiences with math, is it easy to everybody?
I usually put the class into 3 groups. I do that with an assessment test. I give the assessment test after 1 week. I go over what I consider tricky things about math, so that if they've forgotten it, or if they learned it in a different country and they're using different symbols, they can understand the symbols because they wait for everybody to get it. And you go over it. It's not like someone gets it and then they get off. We go over it, and we go over it, and go over it. And if you know it, or you think you know it, you get a chance to teach someone else. And that reinforces it for you. And we do it multiple times until I'm sure they've got it.
When you deal with adult learners, they want to know, especially in general, they want to know why.
Yes.
So if I can present any mathematical thing with a why, then it tends to, you tend to step into and step through the problem and make it understandable and accessible. And I can actually have something in their hands to say, we're going to make this math work, and this is why we're going to do it, and you're going to touch it when it's done, and we're going to blow something up. It might catch on fire. And I'm like, really? If you put too much current through this circuit, and it's this many volts and this much current and this not enough resistance, oh, suddenly the math becomes really interesting, because now we can figure out where the fire happens. If you're anywhere near the ballpark. We talked about that a little bit.
That's one of the things that I think is important, is ballparking it.
Right.
Or being able to, okay, if I start with 360 and I add 10%, I'm not going to be over 3,000.
Yeah.
So.
Or I'm not going to be 150.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you have to be always cognitively or metacognitively asking yourself, do I have the right answer?
Right.
Is this
So,
logical?
See, I let my students use a calculator.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have calculators on the job too. But they have to be able to figure out, based on everything they have, what numbers go where.
Yeah.
And
So
that's
there is
important.
thinking involved.
Right, that is important that they learn how to use the calculator, because, you know, it takes a certain technique in using the calculator, whether you're doing markup or markdown
Yeah.
based on cost or selling price and percent of increase and decrease. You know, they get the wrong numbers in, first of all, for division, and they haven't done it correctly.
Some of those skills, the soft skill, those of you that are soft skill folk,
Oh, we got a lot of those.
I say, they're like, well, what do I have to do with this stuff? I said, well, think of it this way. I'm going to teach you how to do this networking thing. And say you have one of those networking people come and sit in that job interview, and they say, have you ever done subnetting before? Well, the minute that you can say yes, then they're going to start, they're going to ask a hard question. And they're not going to ask, they don't want the answer. They want, how did you get the answer? And so if you say, well, you know, I need 10 subnets, and so I need to borrow.
We just make a list as they come in, and the next person they come in with, that's who they pair with that day. And then
That's a good way for all the slackers to get it.
After she observes them for a while, then she'll pair the stronger with the weaker, so they can
Yeah, I do
feed off,
that too.
learn from each other. Yeah.
I take a look at my grade book sometimes, and based on assignment scores, make assignments that way, so the strongest and the weakest.
Have to mix. That's a good idea. And she tries to tell people to move out of their language groups. Some communities are really close-knit and they won't leave. So we do use name cards. All the students have name cards all term. And it helps us learn their names, and it helps each other, helps them learn each other's names. So you build cohesion. And then you can randomize seating, just put those out before they get there. That's the trick, you have to be there before that.
I've also put different colored Post-it notes inside the name tags. and the colors, you match up by colors.
Great idea. We've used
The strong week grouping thing, I think, has done a lot for our actual retention, because in our lab test, they're all partnered for like one role. They're partnered for roles, and so they have to play the other role for the other person, and so on. So the strong people, when they help out the weak people, they, just by being there, give them confidence, and that's a big thing too.
Yeah, and they might not have, the weaker people might not have the confidence to say, hey, can I be in your team?
Exactly.
But if they're forced to say,
One of the challenges that I have seen with that type of pairing, though, is the group in the middle.
Absolutely.
They're in the wrong tax bracket.
Yeah, exactly.
it's
the golden call.
So I have this happen with a student that usually does really well when she studies by herself, and she happened to be helping out a student quite a bit, and her grade on her test went down quite a bit because she spent her time instead of for herself helping this other person. So I think it depends on how come they're lower. If they're lower because they seem to really need the extra work, or they're lower because they're never there.
yeah, there can be a lot of reasons.
This one is more subjective because
Similar
based
thing in
on
our lab work and the search techniques, but we make them sign off at the end of the day and initial that that's the score that they got, so they know at the end of the day what their score was, and have their team leads explain why it was they got.
everyone has the opportunity to participate, to serve as the lead, and to rate themselves as lead, and then as a peer to rate their lead.